Hey, what's going on everyone? Entering Infinity here. Today I'm back with a brand new video to discuss Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Season 2, Episode 2. Let's jump into it. Alright, so Season 2, Episode 2 of Demon Slayer, the Mugen Train arc. This episode was mostly a setup for what's to come, but I feel like there was a few important plot points that happened, not only for this arc, but kind of the greater story of Demon Slayer that is foreshadowed that I want to touch on. So the episode starts off with, our three main characters, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, getting on the Mugen Train, and their objective is to find the Flame Hashira Rengoku and meet up with him to investigate what's going on in this Mugen Train because of all these people that are disappearing. So we see them kind of walk through the train, and a lot of comedy early on with like Inosuke like being all fascinated by the train and everything, and Zenitsu trying to keep him in line and in check, and they're moving their way through the train trying to find him, and then eventually like they hear someone just like screaming delicious every 5 seconds, and we obviously know who that is. They eventually open the door to his car, and they just see him like screaming like delicious every time he takes a bite of his bento box. So again, I love that humor that they had introduced, and I love that they kind of tied it into the kind of backstory episode that we got in episode 1, and like how he came to get those bento boxes, and like kind of like his little quirk of like yelling delicious after every bite. I love that part of it. And also it's funny when like the cleaning ladies were like had the pile of bento boxes, and they're like trying to like keep up with him and throw them out. I thought that was really funny. So then we see the three of them kind of approach him and kind of let him know why they're there, and the backstory of who sent them and why they're there. And Rengoku tells Tanjiro to sit next to him and talk to him, so he sits down. And even though this conversation was very brief, I feel like he mentioned so many things that are so important to the overall plot of Demon Slayer that I want to touch into them. One of which I have to wait until after a major plot point in the arc because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm going to talk about the other three important things that he mentioned. So the first of the three things that I felt like was really important that he touched on was the 5 elements that the Demon Slayer's breathing are kind of revolved around. So it's water, wind, rock, thunder, and fire. And then there's other breathing styles that kind of branch off of those 5 things, similar to like Naruto and things like that it reminded me of. But I thought that was really interesting to hear that, 'cause they may have touched on that before, but I don't think they've ever like shown that graphic like they showed that had all like the styles and the elements and kind of the branching out of it. I thought that was really interesting. And the second thing that I felt like was really important that he mentioned was when he asked Tanjiro what color his sword was, and Tanjiro told him that it was black, and Rengoku had a negative reaction towards it, and he said that he's never known anybody to reach the level of Hashira with a black sword. And we've heard that before when he first got the black sword, but I feel like this is just reinforcing the point that they're foreshadowing that nobody has been able to get to the Hashira level with the black sword, and I feel like Tanjiro is going to be the first person who is able to do that, and I think that they're just foreshadowing that again with that comment. And then the third thing that I felt like what he said was really important was a little comment that he made also in regards to demon slayers that have black swords. Is he made a comment something along the lines of the fact that they have trouble like with what element that they want to master or something to that degree. And for me, I took that as a sign of foreshadowing that Tanjiro is going to have multiple breathing techniques that he's able to, if not all of them, because we've already seen that, being that his main style is water, and then he also has access to now this fire dance that his father has, the Hinokami Kagura, that being a fire technique. I feel like as the story progresses, Tanjiro is going to probably have access to more styles of breathing, and I think that all goes along with that, his black sword being so unique and everything. I feel like he's going to be the outlier because obviously he's the main character. I feel like that's just foreshadowing the overall bigger plot elements that will happen down the line, because that's something I've felt like for a while that I think they just reinforced again, because I don't think that they said those things for no reason. So I feel like those things were particularly very important with this episode. So then Tanjiro asks Rengoku, being that Rengoku is the fire Hashira, he asks him whether or not he's ever heard of the Hinokami Kagura dance that his father knew, because he said that, it was something that he remembers seeing his father growing up could do this dance, even though he was a frail man, very sickly, and no matter how cold it was out, he was always able to do this dance, and then he was able to replicate that dance into flaming sword technique. So he was asking him, being the fire Hashira, like, have you ever heard of that? And he said that he had never heard of it before, which is also pretty interesting. And that's another another plot point is regarding like who Tanjiro's father was and kind of what role he plays in the overarching kind of universe of Demon Slayer. So I feel like he was probably a very prominent Hashira back in the day. I don't think that he was a nobody. I don't believe that for a second. I'm just very surprised that none of the Hashira knew who his father was, or at least the head guy who's like blind and sickly. I forget his name. I feel like he at the very least has to know who his father was, so I'm very surprised that they didn't tell him, but I'm sure there's some plot device reason why they haven't revealed who his father was yet. But you have to think at this point that he was a very prominent figure. So it's very interesting that Rengoku hasn't heard of that style before, so curious to learn more about the background to that and kind of how it plays into everything. So they have that funny little exchange, and Rengoku is just always just hilarious with everything that he does, how he's like responding to him in their dialogue. So that was really interesting. And then after that, we see the conductor starting to come around to punch the tickets, and we could definitely tell that something's definitely off with this conductor. Obviously, he looks like a zombie. His face is very sunken, and he looks like he's like just dead inside. Very strange guy going around punching all the tickets. So clearly that's like the first red flag of the episode. And then after he punches their tickets, Tanjiro smells a demon on the train, and Rengoku realizes it as well. So he jumps up and he like pulls out his sword, and then, you know, the demon appears, and Rengoku uses his first breathing technique, easily goes and just chops off the demon's head. Beautiful, gorgeous animation and art there as usual. And then he senses that there's a second demon, so he goes into the next car and he finds that there's another demon that seems to be a little bit stronger. And Inosuke kind of charges in because he wants in on the action. You know, he was kind of blindsided by an attack by the demon, and Rengoku has to go in and save him. Just pretty much proving how he's just on a whole nother level as a Hashira, and them just kind of being new demon slayers just starting out. And then he uses his second breathing technique, the rising sun, to cut off the second demon's head, which was just absolutely awesome to see. So I love that, you know, this episode wasn't just purely set up and exposition, that it also had a little bit of action in there. You know, Demon Slayer action is just second to none, so always love getting to see that. So then after that happens, we cut to another scene where the conductor is on the floor on his knees talking to like just like a hand that's like sitting on the floor that's sentient, and it has like a tattoo on it that says dreams or something. So we learn that this is part of a demon that specializes in like sleeping in dreams, and the conductor begs him to let him go to sleep, that he did his job, which you're at this point you're wondering, you know, what is his job? Obviously those of us who have seen the movie, we know what it is, but he says yes, you did a good job, and he like puts him to sleep. So the dude just like passes out on the floor, and then you see the hand go and talk to these 4 children, and they ask him, you know, what do you want us to do? And he kind of sets up kind of the overarching plot of what's going to be happening on the Mugen Train. So he tells them that they're going to be putting them to sleep, the 4 demon slayers, and that he needs them to go and tie a rope between the demon slayer and each kid, and that'll allow them to enter their dreams, and he wants them to go and destroy their spirit cores, because that will ultimately kill them, because he can't do it himself, because the demon slayers would sense the demons and wake up. So he's using these little 4 kids as pawns to go and do it for him, and we will eventually learn more about them and why they're doing that. But that's pretty much just to explain what's going on so far. And then we see who the demon actually is, like not just his hand but his whole body, and he's standing on top of the train, and we learn based on, I believe, the tattoo on his eye, that he is ranked number 1 in the lower ranks of the demons. And for those that don't know, there's upper rank demons and lower rank demons, 6 in each. So since he's the lower ranked number 1, that means he's this overall 7th strongest demon out of all like the demons in this obviously universe. So obviously being the 7th strongest demon, this demon is no joke. And just to kind of put it into perspective, that spider demon, I believe his name was Rui, that Tanjiro fought in that infamous episode from season 1 when he did the Hinokami Kagura fire dance to kill him, which actually I forget if he actually was dead at the end of it or not. But that demon that he fought was a lower rank number 5, and this is lower rank number 1. So you're talking the 11th strongest versus now 7th strongest. So very interesting to see where we're going to go from here, obviously, for those who haven't seen it yet, but this is clearly no joke. So now we got to see who's pretty much the big baddie behind all this, and now we cut back to, you know, our 4 demon slayers who are passed out on the train now. So at this point you're wondering, you know, how they fell asleep and everything. And it also got me wondering, even though I saw the movie twice in theaters, it got me wondering if those 2 demons that were on the train that Rengoku fought Like, was that somebody's dream, or did that happen first and then they went back to their seats and then fell asleep? It's because now I was questioning it after kind of seeing it again, but I want to believe that that actually happened and then they kind of returned to their seats and fell asleep. Just judging by kind of the different dreams we'll eventually see and everything, I don't think that was one person's particular dream, so I think that that actually did happen. But yeah, so then from there we get taken into first Tanjiro's dream, which is by far the most intense and emotional, and we see him kind of walking in the snow, and my god, the animation of the snowfall, absolutely gorgeous, and the train movements, like everything. I can't stress enough how gorgeous this was. Ufotable, again, is just, second to none when it comes to animation and art. So we see him kind of walking in the snowfall, and he comes across where he used to live in his house with his family, and he sees two of his siblings kind of standing there, and he just like breaks down, right? He doesn't realize at this point that he's in a dream, and he didn't have any closure with his family, given that when he found his family in the first episode, they were all slaughtered by demons, so he never really had any closure there. So now he has an opportunity to now see his family again after knowing what happens. So he just like absolutely breaks down, goes and tackles them, which is funny, and he's hugging them and he's crying, and we see him crying in real life on the train, and they're all like acting surprised, like why he's acting like he hasn't seen them, and then he goes into the house with the rest of his family. And when I was watching the movie, I didn't realize like how big his family was. For some reason, when I went into the movies, I was thinking he only had like a couple of siblings, but he actually had a lot more siblings than I thought he had that ended up dying in the first episode. But he sees them, and they're all saying how like, he's acting weird, like he hasn't seen them, and he's just so happy to be there. It's just really emotional and kind of pulls at the heartstrings there, knowing that he gets another chance to see them again and everything. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how that all plays out for those who haven't seen it already. And that's pretty much where the episode wraps up. So again, this is mostly a setup episode, but like I said, I think there's a very important things that were mentioned, especially by Rengoku, about setting up what's to come and a lot of foreshadowing. We got some gorgeous fight scenes and also some really emotional moments as well when Tanjiro got to see his family again. So looking forward to the next few episodes and seeing kind of everybody else's dreams and how this whole thing plays out, since I didn't get a chance to talk about it after I saw the movie. So I'm really looking forward to it. As always, art and animation, just 10 out of 10. I don't think I'm ever going to say that anything otherwise, after watching each of these episodes. So let me know down in the comment section below, what did you think of this episode? Did you enjoy it as much as I do? And do you feel that those plot points that I mentioned are actual foreshadowing for what's to come? And this is anime only, no spoilers from the manga. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel now, and I'll catch you on the next one.